Hi, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm fine.
Awesome. We're going to get started here. We're live on Facebook. Jay, are we ready? Give the green light.
Do we have a green light?
Okay. So, guys, we are officially on. Before I begin, I want to say that tomorrow is Kenny's birthday. So let's give a happy birthday to Kenny. Welcome to Let's Get Real JH. Today we have Tara, Jay, and Jay's father, Jackie, speaking with us today about their lives, being Black in the military, and Jay growing up with, you know, his father and stepmother. So just to give you a quick startup, we have, we're Teton People of Color and Allies. Our mission statement is the following. Our goal is to work towards inclusivity and to break down systemic injustice, racism, and inequality. Our mission is to educate, spread awareness, and spread dialogue. Our purpose is to celebrate our community's cultural diversity while shedding light on the challenges that minorities face in Jackson. So we can begin by Tara speaking a little bit about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you live, and a little bit about your childhood.
Okay, so my name is Tara. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised. I grew up in a single parent household and in the inner city. I was always under the impression for some reason that I was not able to go to college because, you know, we didn't make a lot of money. I don't know where I got this idea from as a child, but I can remember in the 5th grade telling my best friends, you know, when we graduate high school, you know, you all are going to leave me behind because I'm not going to be able to go to college. So I had this fixated in my mind for some reason. So when I was 17 years old, a recruiter came to me and I signed up for the military. I did not know what I was actually signing up for. I thought that I was signing up for a summer camp so that I could pay for college. I really didn't have an idea that I was in the Army until I got off the bus and the drill sergeants were yelling at me. Okay, so that was a traumatic experience. Long story short, I ended up staying in the military for 21 years. So it became all that I knew because I joined at 17. Being Black in the military really didn't affect me until maybe 2016, or as far as experiencing racism did not affect me until about 2016, where I believe Mike Brown was murdered. And then this was around the time Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, all of those men were murdered. And I began to think to myself, I'm sitting here, I raised my right hand to serve my country, and a police officer could come in at any given moment and kill me, and nothing, it's a possibility that nothing will be done to that police officer, you know? So I began to feel foolish for being in the military. I didn't feel patriotic anymore. I always wanted a flag, an American flag in the front of my house. I was just very patriotic, but things started to change for me because I saw that there was a difference because of the color of my skin. While I have regrets about being in the military, I'm thankful for the military because my upbringing, being in the inner city, we didn't have a lot of people to encourage us and to inspire us and to have us believe in ourselves. I mean, look at it. I'm in the 5th grade telling myself that I could not go to college when little did I know I probably could have gotten a million scholarships being an honor student, and I could have probably gone to college for free, but I had no idea. So that is a problem that I feel is still relevant in the Black community because a lot of these kids don't have anybody to speak into their lives. I thank God for the military because if it weren't for that, I probably would be down a slippery slope if still alive today. So so when you see Black on Black crime, I'm kind of getting off a little bit, but this is important. When you see Black on Black crime, a lot of times those kids never had anybody to tell them that they were worthy. So you grow up not feeling worthy and not feeling like you matter. And so if your life doesn't matter to yourself, how valuable is the next person's life, you know? So I retired after 21 years of being in the military. And now I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm a director of an outpatient clinic. And when
you're good. We're good.
And when I entered into the VA, I entered as a housekeeper and I worked my way up. So it took about 10 years, but I don't know where I would be. I think the military actually helped me and grounded me. So while it's bittersweet, because I do miss it, because it was all that I ever knew, you know, from the time of being 17 years old, I still have resentment because I just feel like my country doesn't support me because of the color of my skin, and I supported my country. Sorry if that was long.
No, it's perfect. They were here to listen. Thank you so much for speaking of that. Does Jackie want to talk about his life a little bit?
Hey.
Yeah, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are? And
Well, my name is Jackie. I'm Wallace Jr. I'm actually a junior. I'm 40s, born in 1976. I had a totally different type of experience with life. Being born Cleveland in a two-parent household. So ours was, you know, a different similar. It wasn't, I was raised in a two-parent household up until, I want to say 12th grade. My parents got divorced. I was very active, into sports, Boy Scouts, you know, things like that growing up. My mother, one thing, her thing was, you know, keeping me busy, things like that. So as growing up, 12th grade, my senior year of high school, and the college that I wanted to go to, they didn't give out baseball scholarships. And it was a liberal arts school, so all they did was give out grants and things like that. So wasn't able to basically go to college because I told my mother, I said, Ma, I just don't want to put that burden on you, now being single parent with the son, you know, going to college and things like that. So I ended up joining the military. So it wasn't really a culture shock to me because I was already in that type of life, being heavily involved in sports, coaches, parents, you know, things like that being on you and things. So that wasn't really a shock to me, the structure part, because I was raised that way at an early age. So, you know, being in the military, it had its ups and downs. I didn't experience too much racism. I think because the reason why, because I was in active duty, and being active, everybody knew that at any given time we was going to go to war together. So we had to basically, you know, get along, because the person next to you could be like, you know what, I don't like you, I could kill you myself right now. But the one thing was very interesting going into the military when I first got assigned, I got assigned to this guy's room, this white guy. He was from Maine. And the one thing, and this is the first time I ever heard, is he was like, wow, I never seen a black person before. I only seen a black person from TV,
Oh, wow.
news and stuff like that. And I could understand because he was from Maine. I mean, it's not too many black people that live in Maine. So I mean, it just, it is what it is. But as time went on, it's not that he was racist or anything like that. He just never seen a black person in person before.
Mm-hmm.
So that right there, I had to set the tone first. Basically, he judged me based on my conduct and how I carry myself.
Mm.
So at the end of the day, I just feel like just because we're a different color and things like that, but I commanded respect as a man because we was men.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just how I feel.
Okay.
That was like my experience, beginning experience going into the military.
Yeah. Awesome. I have a question for Tara. Tara, what did you get? Did you get any kind of reaction from your colleagues when the whole police killings blew up in 2016? Did you get any kind of support? Anybody saying anything? Like, did people talk about it in your presence? What kind of?
So at the time, I was in a predominantly white unit, so nobody could relate to what I was going through or what I was experiencing. I did share how I felt with another Black soldier, and he understood, but nobody ever pressed the issue or anything. Now, very recently on Facebook, a lot of people's thoughts are coming out with, the recent George Floyd situation, different things that have come out, just racist remarks that have come out from, all over. And so you kind of see who people are. The only people that I have following me are usually people that I served with in the military. And so you kind of get how people feel. And so it's very hurtful. Because you've served with these people. When you serve with somebody, it's like we're saying, I will risk my life for you, you will risk your life for me, and we fight together, so it's a hurting thing. It's like, well, do I go unfollow this person? I mean, this person was my roommate, or this person was, we were arm in arm. So it's a struggle because it's hurting, it's really hurting. But maybe not in my unit, but now it's really coming out.
Sounds like the sense of betrayal, maybe.
It feels that way. And a lot of times, and I know Jackie can relate as well, we come across people who say, oh, well, you're not like everybody else, or you're different, so they feel like we get a pass because maybe we don't act like what they think a Black person should act like, or what they've seen on TV, but you're displaying your true feelings, when you post different things on Facebook. And so it's hurtful.
Mm-hmm. I see. So, it's just kind of interesting for sure. I can't imagine what that feels like, because I was just thinking when I heard Jackie say, I was thinking of the Band of Brothers, Shakespeare poem, so that camaraderie. I was going to ask, what are your feelings about seeing the military as a way out of poverty? I think that is a huge topic that is being discussed, that a lot of minorities see the military as the only way out of poverty. Do you have any thoughts to share about that?
I agree, because it is. It's like, man, it's like, if I can't go to school, or I thought I was a Some may feel like, well, I thought I was an athlete, or I just barely graduated high school. Where do I go now? So the one thing is that sometimes at that point you're vulnerable to anything. So you see the signs, join the military or the U.S. Army, the Marines, and things like that. And I think that's a lot of times that's one of the top two reasons why.
Yeah, and I feel like that's our only option. If you don't go to school, then you have the military or you try to get a good job. But what real good job are you going to get with just a high school diploma? So, it's you feel kind of stuck.
When you guys went into the first basic training and you met other people, you talked a little bit about how that worked. Did you guys feel any perceptions in terms of like your relationship with America and the United States? Because I know that there's a big portion of the population in this country that really feels like this exceptionalism towards the United States and this like profound love and pride. And I was just wondering if you felt, how did you interact with that yourselves when you were pledging allegiance to the flag and singing all these patriotic songs?
I feel bamboozled today, but I was a true patriotic, red, white, and blue, Star Spangled Banner. I was the one it was right up my alley, okay? You couldn't tell me my flag, my country. I was so proud, and I think that they instilled that in us in basic training. They kind of beat it down your throat. So you graduate basic training, like honor, you want to honor your country.
Well, I want to add too, I think it kind of started before that, because we was in school when you still had to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance, things like that. So that part was embedded in us already in school, and in grade school and things like that. Before class started, we had to get up. It was just an automatic thing. So when I joined, I guess I'm gonna be honest, I never was into that type stuff, like gun ho or for something that was a materialistic thing. I never got into that. I'm not saying that I wasn't patriotic, but I wasn't like all over the place, like, I'm in the military for my country and things like that. I went to the service because I didn't have a choice, So I just went, and like I said, I was used to the environment, to teamwork and the working out, the different activities and things like that. That's it. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go fight for my country and things like that. I never really got involved in that part.
Right.
To be honest, I wasn't. I just never was big into that type stuff.
Right. So a question for Jaylin. How was it, like, how was it to grow up with a father in the military? I know that that's a big thing, like to be the son of, an active duty member. I don't know if you were still active duty when Jay was growing up, but how was that for Jay? Like, how did that affect your view of the United States?
Well, so growing up, my father wasn't in the military.
Okay.
I have no recollection at all of, anything that has to do with the military, only because I was born on Fort Campbell when he was in active duty, but shortly after I was born, we left. So my childhood wasn't it. You know, it wasn't around the military, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, great. Were you instilled any patriotic values growing up?
Growing up, I was not instilled with patriotic values. I can be completely honest with you. I mostly grew up with my mother,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that, you know, just wasn't in the household.
Right. I understand. It's a big thing for a lot of people. So, Tara and Jackie, I was going to ask you a little bit about you talked a little bit about being stationed in different parts of the country and different parts of the world. And if you want to share those experiences, like how was life inside the base versus life outside of the base? And how did your race affect that?
Well, being active, I was part of the 101st Airborne.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Fort Campbell, Kentucky, one of the largest bases at the time. It's part half Kentucky, half Tennessee. It's like on the base, it's like you wasn't part of the regular world because we had like our own rules and things like that. Then going off the base, it was more the same because the people outside of the base was, it was a military area.
Mm-hmm.
You was able to get things because you was in the military. It didn't matter how much money you had and things like that. It was just a lot of sharks around trying to get everything they could out of you because you was the military. And that was my first time, I want to say, away from home, living out on my own. So it was a lot of things that I'd never seen before. Especially like I had this perception of Nashville, Tennessee, that wow, like it was racist being Nashville, Tennessee, So, but it was weird because we went there for their 100th centennial
Mm-hmm.
celebration. And I was like, wow, I said, I never seen so many biracial, interracial relationships. So that started getting me to realize like, okay, well, Nashville isn't what I thought it would be because of all the interracial relationship that I've seen. I never really seen that before in a place that you would consider the South, Nashville, Tennessee. So being in that area more turned my perception of a city around that time.
Tara, how about you? I know you served the Coast Guard, if I'm not mistaken, and
National Guard. So I do have an experience of being deployed overseas.
okay.
And so, and like you said, when you're on base, it's kind of like you're in another world because it's like a community, okay? You don't know anything on the outside world. When we did leave the wire, there was fear, when you go overseas and you're in a combat zone, you just automatically think about dying every day. But I was in Kuwait, and so the Kuwaitis welcomed us because they wanted us there. They felt protected by us. So they treated us with respect. Now in that area, they did not necessarily respect their women. So like the men, they would not shake women's hands. We had to get used to that sort of thing. When we were invited different places, the men would be, they would be able to be in air conditioned marble floors, and the women would be outside on bleachers, So we had to get used to that, the culture in that way. I would say when I wore my uniform, I was always respected, really, no matter where I went. But if I was without my uniform, maybe going to my unit or coming home, you could tell the difference. You know, people look at you different when you are a different color. But when you have the uniform on, everybody, you know, everybody treats you with respect, you know, but you can see the difference when the uniform comes off.
Interesting. Interesting. And Tara, I don't know if you were with Jackie when you said you were stationed in Japan once as well?
No, I wasn't stationed in Japan. We had my mother, I forgot the actual reason why we went to Japan. I think it was like more of a I want to say like a outreach or like a cultural exchange. And she was part of, I forgot what it was at that time. So she ended up taking me over there with her, and we stayed like a good 2 weeks plus an extra week because we were just enjoying ourselves, and we ended up staying, I want to say, about 3 weeks over in Japan.
Interesting. Awesome. What was it like? How was that? Did you have any perceptions of Japan? I know that there's a lot of talk about what Japan is like racially. I think so. I'm just curious, like how was life in Japan for you?
You know what? It was different. At that time, the culture wasn't too accepting of tourists. But the one thing, it wasn't, they didn't look at you any different because you was a different color.
Interesting.
It was nice. We stayed with families. They brought us in and, you know, loved us, and it wasn't no tension because of us being, you know, Black or anything like that. We went to baseball games. They took us to baseball games, professional baseball games. We did a lot of sightseeing and things like that. But I'll tell you one experience though, like at that age, you know, you try to, you know, as a male, you try to, you know, talk to females. So I tried to talk to this one girl daughter. She was Japanese. And the thing she told me, she was like, what is your grade point average in school? So I was like, why you ask me that? So I told her, I said, I have a C plus, B minus average. So she wouldn't talk to me or date me because I was a
Oh wow.
B student. I mean, so it's like I mean that kind, you know, as a young man to have a female tell you that, but I understood why she said that, because their culture is really big on education at that time. But I just thought it was pretty cool. But we remained friends, but I couldn't be her boyfriend because she felt like, well, I wasn't smart enough.
Okay.
So I mean, it was just an experience, which was, you know, pretty cool.
I say good for her. He never told me this story. I'm gonna tell my daughters, if a boy is not making straight A's, you need to say no. I'm gonna teach them that. That is good.
Tara, you served the National Guard, and I know that the National Guard has been a big topic of conversation while these really intense protests have been happening and riots. I was wondering what your thoughts were. How did you feel as a National Guard, a former National Guardswoman, seeing what's happening on TV, and how did those memories interact with the current situation?
Well, I actually felt a little bit jealous because I wish that I could go and serve with them. So they're doing great work, and so I just wish that I could step in and help.
I see.
Because even though I have the ill feelings, it's still who I am. It's still a part of me. You know, my whole adulthood, that's, you know, that it was the military. So
I see what you mean. Right.
mhm.
How did the National Guard, when seeing how the police interacted with the protesters, how did you feel with the images you saw at the news? Did you agree with them? Did you disagree with them? Did you ever have any moments like, that's not what we were taught?
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of things that are going on is not necessarily how things should be going, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you just take the punches and roll with it. But that's another reason why I would have liked to have been involved, because I feel like I was always a person that kind of did what I thought was right instead of maybe what I was told. That's not necessarily good advice for anyone on this line. But you know, that made me even more want to get in and do what I could.
I see. Jay, would you have anything to add? Any thoughts? Any?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot to add. You know, what's the question?
You said you had something to add. I was just like, how did you feel, you know, listening to what Tara was saying about being a National Guards woman, a former National Guards woman, and watching these protests? How did you feel when she was talking? I felt like maybe you had something to share when I saw you.
Well, me personally, I've never served in the military, so I don't know how it feels, you know. So really, I just know what I see on TV and what I read, you know, in the newspaper or the stories, you know. So that's how I, you know, usually as a citizen, that's how I get my information. Um, but in regards to how I feel about it, I think that, you know, our system as a whole is messed up, you know, and we have a long way to go to fix our system, to make sure it works for all Americans, you know. I think that our system won't be fixed until, um, you know, the words "all men are created equal" are, you know, adapted to everybody, no matter your race, your skin, you know, your race, skin tone, creed, or religion. You know, until it's applied to everybody, then we won't be able to live up to, you know, what the founding fathers originally intended. You know, although they were specifically talking about, you know, white men were created equal. You know, the Constitution, in my perception, is it's a living, breathing document. And as time goes on, and as things happen in our country, you know, it adapts to certain situations. And you know, especially after the civil rights movement in the '60s, you know, it was time for change. You know, the way I look at it is, you have a balloon, right? And as you put pressure on the balloon, it starts to expand, right? So during the civil rights era is when that balloon metaphorically started to expand, right? You know, you get a very large group of people riled up who have been oppressed for a long time, right? So that hand that's squeezing that balloon is the oppressor, okay? And so as time goes on, when you keep squeezing that balloon, right, eventually it's going to pop. And what we're seeing now is that balloon popping, you know, and everybody's wondering, you know, oh, why is this happening? It's because for so long, when you oppress a people or a group of people for 400 years, right? And maybe you let off the pressure a little bit, but you don't fully let off, you know, you don't fully let off the pressure. And the balloon finally pops because of all that air pressure and that stress, you know, you got a whole big problem now. And the only solution to the problem is to really tackle the issue head on, not skip around it, not say, okay, we're going to do this next year. No, it's these things need to happen now because we've been going through it, you know, our entire lives. I think personally, it's like growing up. Um, it was always instilled in me that, you know, I think it's unintentional, but to fear the cops, you know, and it should not be like that. You know, growing up, I was always scared of the cops. Okay. Although I never got into trouble as a kid, and I still don't get into trouble, you know, I was always afraid of the cops, you know, and I think that's something that, you know, we need to change in the community, you know, because police brutality is a real thing, you
Right.
know, it is a real thing. And unfortunately, it happens disproportionately to minorities, whether it be Hispanics, African Americans, you know, Indian Americans, anybody who is not white, unfortunately. You know, anybody who's not white, it happens to. So we kind of need to get to a point where we can change that. So that's how I feel about that.
So, oh, Tara, you were speaking of growing up in the inner city. How was your interaction with police, and Jackie as well, if you want to share that, because he grew up fearing cops. What was your impression of cops growing up?
I did not grow up fearing cops, because that wasn't really a thing in my experience. I think now, you know, with the recent things that have happened, I fear cops now, but I never did before. Especially when I was in the military, I feel like the military gives you like a special badge or something, and you feel like you have an extra coating of protection being in the military. And I always felt like police had my back because I was in the military, but now I'm afraid of the cops. So I'm afraid of getting pulled over and, you know, something happening.
Well, to be honest, I never been afraid of cops. I never, even growing up, I mean, you know, being part of another type of lifestyle, from gangs, things like that. Never really had a fear of cops. So, like, even now, I don't fear cops. I just never have. Just to be honest, I mean, since I was small and up until this day, I don't fear cops, because I truly understand that every cop isn't a bad cop. So, I mean, I guess I look at that kind of different. So, but to answer your question, no, I'm not afraid, or never have been afraid of a cop, because I never was taught to be afraid of another man at the end of the day.
So I know that we have this topic, right, that it's African American in the military. Are there any memories that really have stayed with you being African American in the military that you would like to share with us?
My memory is it was outside the military. It was when I was
She said the military.
younger.
It can be either or. Whatever memory that you feel you need to share tonight, we can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it is an amazing story, because it's both good and bad. I was part of a baseball team at the age of 13, 14. I got recruited. It was only 2 Black people on that team. We traveled around the United States, and we went to a large national tournament in Casper, Wyoming. And it was an experience, because there were people there that was really trying to harm me because I was Black. And I could remember, I remember that whole episode like clearly, because the host family, me and one of the guys stayed with, she was a white lady, Miss Theus. I would never forget Miss Theus because she had one child of her own, and she had two child that she adopted. One was a Chinese and one was an Indian. And the one thing she said, I wish that anybody would come up on this hill because I have shotguns. Meaning that when she heard that I was being threatened because I was Black, that didn't sit well with her. And that was the one true racial thing that I ever really came across, even though I knew it was around. You know, my eyes is still open. I know it's racism, but that right there was an eye opener because it was at a young age when your life is being threatened at that time.
What about you, Tara?
I can just remember when President Obama was elected, and I was overseas at the time, and we would find negative racial slurs in the porta potties and the restrooms all over the place, and that was eye-opening, you know. So it kind of hurt. Of course, it stung a lot of us, and it was unbelievable because we didn't even, you know, we didn't expect it, you know. But a lot of people were upset when he became president.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would have thought, you know, that was such a euphoric moment for me when Wolf Blitzer said on CNN, Barack Obama elected president. I remember like screaming and jumping up. I was in college. I remember that. Wow. Jay, do you have any memories you'd like to share?
Yeah. So, in the regards to like if I've experienced racism.
Any memory of your experience, either like your father or stepmother, like through them, or something that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So I think the memory I'll share is that, you know, I came to Jackson to serve in the AmeriCorps and Triple C. So within the AmeriCorps, you're kind of instilled with the sense of, you know, serving your community or serving other communities in need. And so Jackson Hole was one of those communities in need because there's a very big problem in Jackson in regards to housing. Affordable housing is a huge problem in Jackson. At first, when I got the assignment, I was kind of skeptical, you know, because I was thinking to myself, you know, Wyoming, you know, there's no people who look like me, you know, so it's going to be a little rough. So on the drive there, you know, I thought it was going to be a little rough, but as when I got there, it was a little better. I had one other teammate with me who also was a person of color. And I think the most memorable thing probably was we were downtown and we were in our uniforms. It was just me and my teammate who was also Black, and we went into a restaurant, and we had a very bad experience. It took them a long time to wait us. There were customers who were asking, you know, when we were leaving. They asked the waitress when we were leaving. They were rude. And, you know, unfortunately, we were treated like this, and we were there to serve the community of Jackson Hole, you know. And so because of that, you know, it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth, but I kind of quickly got over it because not everybody is like that. you know, and that was one of the first times that I had experienced outright and blatant racism. That was directly, that was directed at me because I looked different, because I looked out of place, you know, but I was there to serve a community that was in need, so I'm not going to say it's not, I kind of looked at the bigger picture, I felt like, when I guess when you're in the military, you serve, the people, right? Although the people may not like you because of your skin tone, you're still there to serve and protect them, right? And I felt that I was there to serve that specific community and help them because they were in need. And I was willing to continue to do that. And as I continued to do that, I fell, I wouldn't say fell in love, but I, the area grew on me and I decided to stay. So, but despite my experience that I had, um, it didn't really deter me, I'm not the type of person if you come at me, in a disrespectful manner, I'm not going to run, you know. That's not, because I'm not living for you, I'm living for me. And I was here to serve. I was in Jackson to serve the community, and that's what I did.
So it's time for real talk. Do you think Wyoming has a racism problem?
Wyoming does have a racism problem. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the racism in Wyoming is not just recent. Wyoming's racism goes back to the very creation of the state. What a lot of people don't know is that there were thousands of Black pioneers who came through the state of Wyoming. There were thousands of Black pioneers who lived here. There were thousands of Buffalo soldiers in Wyoming protecting the city, right? And there were laws put in place to where a Buffalo soldier, right, could not marry a white woman, but a white man could marry a Native American, you see? So it's like Wyoming is called the equality state, but in reality, is it really equal? We still have a long way to go. Wyoming's a beautiful place, beautiful people, but Wyoming has a long way to go. So there are, there's deep entrenched racism. I mean, you see people with Confederate flags. Even recently today, I saw somebody with a Nazi flag, right? So it's like there's blatant racism all around.
My goodness.
Not everybody's racist, but it is there. It's out in the open.
Wow. Well, this was a very interesting conversation. We have to keep talking about this. So I'm going to ask Kenny if there's any questions on Facebook for Tara, Jackie, or Jay, or if any of us have questions. No questions? Hey, Tina has a question. Just unmute it.
Okay.
Unmute you. Awesome.
So I'm just curious, did you ever feel that your rank or moving up in position in the military was affected by the color of your skin?
Well, I would say yes. I feel as though you have to work twice as hard in order to be, to be considered, or I don't know. You really can't. I don't know. You can't pinpoint it, but I feel like certain people were looked out for more so than others. Sorry.
How about you, Jackie?
Well, in my experience, I think because I think a lot of sergeants and things like that when I was in the service were Black. I had a lot of Black NCOs. So I think it was based on where you were at. I think it was based on performance. And sometimes not because you were, Black or white. It was basically performance based on how you were moved up. But there are cases where sometimes some people may have certain privileges, in a particular job or things like that. It wasn't a lot of Black warrant officers at that time when I was in, or just in general. So I think it was mainly based on performance based on how you moved up.
But Tara, I'm just curious, like as a woman, a lot of times we have to work way hard. So then add the color aspect too. I mean, it just adds another layer.
Yeah, it's definitely a real thing. I've always had to work twice as hard than the next female or the next male being a Black woman. So it's definitely a real thing.
It's nice to hear your pride of being in the military. It really is nice. I've always wanted to hear from you the inside perspective. So thank you so much.
Yes, anytime.
Great. I hope you come back.
From Ashley Hillary, thanking us.
Hey, I have a question.
Oh, Corey has a question.
Hi.
Well,
So I moved here from Idaho, and I've lived in the West my whole life. And when I moved up to Jackson, knowing the history of racism, like Jay mentioned, my parents feared for my safety. When he moved up here, did you two ever fear for his safety or well-being?
well, I did because I know firsthand what Wyoming, the experience that I had in Wyoming at a young age. And when Jaylyn told me, "Oh, I'm going to Wyoming," I was like, I kind of like threw a, like a red sign, like, "You're going to Wyoming. You gotta, hey, it's some issues out there." And I was blunt with him. He can tell you that I told him, "Look, this is what it is." And, then I told him, I said, but on the flip side of it, everybody isn't racist, but you have to understand there's not a lot of Black, our culture out there. They're out there, but I knew firsthand that it was Cheyenne that had the majority of our culture there. But I made sure I kept in contact with them because I knew firsthand that what I experienced when I was in Wyoming at a young age.
Well, no more questions on Facebook, Kenny. Last check. Awesome. By the way, everybody, tomorrow is Kenny's birthday, so please send him happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for all of you who tuned in or watching us in the future. And have a very good night.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for joining
you.
us here,
Thank
Jackie.
you.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Jay.
Thank you.